Whew, man. What is going on? Oh, we got a little reverb. 1 second. What's up, y'all? Whew, we got a lot to talk about. I feel like, I don't know, sometimes I could get so passionate, and man, there's a lot. There's a lot of things that I feel like I want to address, and mostly, I'm gonna start at the beginning with Rode. I'm really just trying to go straight in. So whether you hop on here in the beginning of this live or you hop in halfway through, I'll re-edit this, chop it up, and I'll post it so that y'all can watch it and kind of look back at it. But there's just a few things. So like my community, the community that reaches out to me, that I give advice to, majority are wedding filmmakers. I am in the wedding space. I'm fortunate enough to be one of the people that can teach and that can be at the top where we kind of help influence some of the decisions, or at least the purchasing decisions, from a lot of the people in the industry. Y'all know, if you've been following me or you've seen any TikTok of mine, I am a gear head. That's what I love gear. I love to understand how things work. I love to make systems better. I love to figure out how to make something better. Tools like Timecode, tools like recorders, 32-bit float. I cannot tell you how many things I've dived into in the world of audio, like signal to noise ratio, 32-bit float, digital to analog converters, all of this stuff that usually goes straight past a lot of people unless you specifically study it. I like openly embrace it because I love this stuff. I love everything about filmmaking. So that's kind of like my intro. The video and the stuff that I want to talk about today is not bad stuff. Like, I'm not saying that the Rode Wireless Pro that they coming out with is a bad product. In fact, I feel like a lot of y'all that have been commenting, there's been a couple comments I see like, oh, is this a thing, making a review about a product that's not even released to the public yet? It's just been announced. I don't have a problem with it. In fact, I think it is a phenomenal product. I love Rode products. I rock the NTG3. I rock the Rode Video Mic NTG on the B Cam. I shoot my podcast with the Rodecaster Pro 2 and the pod mics. Like, I'm decked out in Rode gear. The Rode Wireless Pro, I think, is an exceptional product. I think it's dope. I think the fact that it's 2 recorders with 32-bit float is phenomenal. And I think even more that its ability to have timecode is also cool. My issue with how they're promoting this is that majority of the people who are looking at this product are a lot of the people who look up to me for product recommendations or in the wedding space. So my review and my thoughts on this product is I'm mainly speaking to the people that are already in the community, that are involved with weddings, and that are looking for a way to get a leg into timecode. I get messages, countless, like all over TikTok, Instagram. I get comments always about timecode, how to integrate it, how to get started with it, what can you do and what can't you do. And for Rode, a company, to be at the top of the list for most beginners and prosumers to market a product and intentionally mislead you, I hate that. That is what bothers me the most. So let's talk a little bit about timecode. I made a video. We already uploaded that. So after this live stream, you can check that out. But in that video, I basically show you one of Rode's primary claims, where they say that you can take the device, you can take the Rode wireless receiver, plug it into your cameras, and then unplug them, and it'll maintain that accuracy over the course of time. In fact, I've got the video up. One of the things that I keep laughing at is the fact that he says you just have to plug it in and rejam, and then he says from time to time. And there's a lot of things to understand about timecode first. One, timecode is a clock. That's all it is. It's a clock that's counting up, whether you start it from 0 or whether you start it from time of day. It's a free run time system. In post-production, you are basically telling the editing software, like, hey, sync this video with this video based on the clock. And then they line up perfectly. Or sync these videos with this audio, and it all lines up perfectly because it's a clock. The issue and the thing that a lot of people that Rode is not even talking about is this term that we use called drift. Drift is how far off the sync between those clocks will end up being over the course of time. So let's just try. I'm trying to keep it very, very simple so that anyone can understand it. Let's take 1 hour, 60 minutes. The way that you read time code, the first 2 digits are hours, the second 2 digits is minutes, the third 2 digits is seconds, and the last 2 digits is frames. The frames reset based on the frame rate that you're filming in. For example, if you're shooting in 30 frames per second, it's gonna count all the way up to 30 and reset. If you're shooting in 23,976, it's gonna count all the way up to 23, then reset. If you're shooting in 24, it counts to 24, then resets. And so on and so on. 25 if you're shooting in PAL, 29.97 again. With these clocks, the clocks have to stay in sync or the drift, the term where it falls behind, will grow over time. One of the things that you'll see with majority of the big brand timecode generators, the timecode companies like the Deity TC1. By the way, I'm not sponsored by Deity. They don't pay me to make videos. Every single Deity product that I own, I purchase with my own money. That's because it works. That's because I'm excited about it. And that is why I recommend it to you. Not because anyone or any brand is paying me. So let me just say that first. The Deity TC1s are an accurate timecode device. The Tentacle Sync, an accurate timecode device. The Ultra Sync 1, another accurate timecode device. And there's many more on the market that are accurate. When Rode announced this, I was super hyped about it. And then I started hearing how they were promoting the timecode. And then as I read into it, everything seemed way off about what they were doing. I want to show you just a quick thing on Deity's website about this is how you can gauge if a device is accurate in timecode or not. We're going to just look at their timecode TC1. That's this device right here. I'm right on their website, not making any of this stuff up. You scroll down and it tells you the drift accuracy of the internal clock. Now there are components, I don't want to get super technical, but there are components inside this device that makes it reliable. On their website, it says only 1 frame drift every 72 hours. If you go to Rode's website, there is nothing about this with the Wireless Pro. There is no sign of drift. There is no sign of anything. They're saying that it has time code, but they're not telling you how accurate the time code actually is. In fact, in one spot that I actually noticed that really throws me off is the synchronization method, and they have it set as proprietary. Oh, this is off. This is off. This is off the site now. Wow, I should have screenshot it. This is off the site now. Wow, it was literally right here and it said proprietary and they've removed it. So let me give you a little bit of context. Rode, since they first released it, I made a video and I basically spoke my piece. Then they commented on that video and literally an hour or two later, they dropped another video kind of combating some of the things I said. Since then, they've been releasing information about how to sync it. They released a video about what is time code and all these different things. And then they switched up the wording in a lot of the parts on their website to make it less confusing, if you want to call it that. So going back to my whole point about accuracy and time code being accurate, the Deity system has 1 frame drift after being ran for 72 hours. A normal situation, you're not running this more than 12, 13 hours. Let's just be real. With Rode, we don't know if that clock is accurate. In the video that I just uploaded, I had 3 Pocket 6Ks sitting on my table. I jammed them all using this, and I proved to you how internal clocks on the camera are not accurate. They do not maintain consistent time code. I believe because Rode is not putting out an accurate statement about their drift, that they are using a similar clock system that you find in most cameras, which means that that clock is not accurate. Which also means if I jam a device from that clock, that means this device will carry a consistent, more accurate time code, causing the Rode device and any other device that I jammed with it to fall behind because the Rode system's not accurate. So there's a lot of things, I don't want to confuse you, but there's a lot of things about time code that they're not saying. I think it's a great product, but I don't believe you should buy it if you're trying to get into time code. I think it's a great solution if you are shooting a vlog and in the event that you walk too far away from your camera or there's a lot of interference, you got a 32-bit recording backup that syncs perfectly to the receiver because you have that receiver at all times plugged into your camera. I think that is phenomenal. One of the things I want to play and I want to talk a little bit about is Rode's statement with plugging in the device and unplugging it. So before I start, let's just play this back. I'm gonna throw these headphones on. This is fresh off of Rode's website. They posted this video 11 hours ago. I watched the whole thing through, and this is the part that, again, is misleading to the market of people that they're selling this to. The vlogger, I don't want to say beginner filmmaker, but I want to say the beginners who are starting with Timecode. You're going to invest in this and think that you're off to a great start, and then you're going to find out in post that everything is backwards. So I want to play this real quick.
This is amazing. I was wondering, if I film with two cameras, can the receiver help me to synchronize them with the timecode function? Now, for anyone unfamiliar with timecode, the timecode function is about having all of your different sources synchronized so that when you're editing in post-production, you can build your timeline very quickly and have your audio and video sources synchronized. So the Wireless Pro has a timecode generator on the receiver, and the transmitters themselves can lock to that timecode generator and then run timecode to keep the transmitters, the receiver, and the camera that you're using perfectly synchronized.
Now, this statement that they just said is a great way to kind of, they redacted their original statement. In the original post, when they first made this video, they talked about how the Rode Wireless Pro was a wireless transmitter, wireless receiver with timecode that could sync all your cameras. Like, you can use it in multicam scenarios. And now the wording, they've kind of shifted it to make it more intentional to only using this system with one camera. Another thing is that I showed you this in the video that we just uploaded. So after this live, check out that video. I showed you exactly how I had 3 Blackmagic cameras. Let's assume that they came off of the same assembly line. We don't know. 3 Blackmagic cameras, all with their own internal clocks. Let's think of it as if you have your own smartwatch or your own watch, and each watch has a different battery percentage. The performance in each one of those watches is going to be different. They may start out and it shows the same time, but over time, they start to fluctuate. Things start to change. I showed you that with all 3 of the Blackmagic cameras. My biggest concern with Rode's system is that, yes, they do sync to each other, but if all 3 of these devices aren't accurate like a timecode generator, then what's the point? You'll end up syncing your wireless receiver to the wireless transmitters, and then when they disconnect, or if something, disconnected between the two, now the wireless transmitter is going to start drifting and the wireless receiver will be showing a different time code. So your camera is going to be at one point, your audio recordings are going to be at another point. Just because they use the word time code does not mean that it is a perfect solution. We need concrete evidence. And again, I don't know if it drifts or if it doesn't, but trust me, because I'm spending so much time talking about the product, telling everybody that's reaching out to me why they shouldn't buy it yet, why they should hold off, I will buy a set and I will test it. And I will, if I'm wrong, I will be happy to make another video and take back everything I said. But as of right now, they are misleading you in so many ways. I'm gonna keep playing this video.
The way that works is that you can enable the timecode function on the receiver with multiple different outputs, whether that's over USB or whether that's over the 3.5mm output. And you can even have mixed modes where you have a reference track of your audio on one side and a timecode track on the audio on the other side that you're printing to your camera. Now, if you want to use multiple cameras,
this is the part.
A couple of ways that you can achieve that. First of all, your camera needs to have a dedicated timecode function.
What he means by a dedicated timecode function, for example, all of the Blackmagics, the Pocket 4K, Pocket 6K, Ursa Mini Pro, they accept timecode. The Ursa Mini Pro actually has a timecode port, so you plug into that and it's only used for timecode. The Pocket series, they use the audio input, the 3.5mm audio input, as audio or timecode. So if you plug timecode into it, the camera recognizes the timecode and auto jams the system to whatever the timecode is on the generator. If your camera does not do that, cameras like the Panasonic S5, the A7S III, the A7 II, an A6600, a Canon R6, these cameras do not recognize timecode. They have to be recorded as an audio file, which is an entirely different set of processes and things that will just upset you if you don't already know about timecode. But that is what he means by your camera has to have a dedicated timecode port. If you're filming weddings right now with Sony A7S IIIs, you can't jam timecode into it. Whether you're recording into it, you plug into it or not, it is not going to accept a timecode jamming signal.
In which case you can plug the receiver from the Wireless Pro directly into your camera's timecode input, synchronize timecode, and then put that receiver back onto the main camera you want to use.
So this is another big beef, because if you know timecode, and give you guys some context if you're new here, if you're not familiar with it, I've been running timecode for basically almost 2.5 years. Every single wedding, I do 50 to 60 weddings a year. I have been running timecode. Not only have I been doing it with 4 or 5 cameras, but I have 15 deity recorders and 2 Zoom F6s that are all synced with timecode. So trust me when I tell you, you cannot plug in the device into a camera and then unplug it. The generators inside these pockets, your Reds, anything like that that have timecode, they're not accurate timecode devices. They're not accurate timecode clocks. Not only that, but your timecode has to consistently run throughout the entire duration of your shoot. This is why you use a generator instead of using the camera. Whenever you turn this camera off, whenever you pop out the camera's battery, you now have to re-jam the camera. Having a timecode device plugged into it eliminates the hassle of going to find your timecode device, jamming the signal, or coming back to the camera. You have this mounted to your camera at all times. Rode is misleading you by trying to sell you a device and telling you that this is the only thing you need, and all you have to do is plug it into your cameras, pop and go if it accepts timecode. Again, if you have a Pocket Series camera or like a C70 or a camera that does support timecode, watch the video that I just put out that shows you that how the internal clocks with timecode in cameras are not accurate. So watch that video.
Use for your shoot to be able to have those cameras locked in timecode.
Turn the audio up so y'all can hear it. Let's go back a little bit and I'll play this straight through and then I'll let that go.
With multiple different outputs, whether that's over USB or whether that's over the 3.5mm output, and you can even have mixed modes where you have a reference track of your audio on one side and a timecode track on the audio on the other side that you're printing to your camera. Now, if you want to use multiple cameras, there's a couple of ways that you can achieve that. First of all, your camera needs to have a dedicated timecode function, in which case you can plug the receiver from the Wireless Pro directly into your camera's timecode input, synchronize timecode, and then put that receiver back onto the main camera you want to use for your shoot to be able to have those cameras locked in timecode at the start of the shoot.
Now, again, another key word that he said, it's going to be locked in timecode at the start of the shoot. Drift occurs over time. When you first jam the cameras, it's in sync. As time goes on, like in the video I just put out, as time goes on, the drift grows. So it started, I only did it for 15 minutes. I showed you in this last video that we just posted. I did it for 15 minutes and we were 4 frames off on 2 cameras and 3 frames off on 1 camera. So imagine if I was doing a multi-cam setup, I was shooting a wedding ceremony, I had a bride angle, a groom's angle, an angle in the middle, and maybe I'm floating around on my gimbal. That's 4 cameras. Only 1 camera is going to be perfectly in sync with the audio because I have the Rode Wireless Pro plugged into it. My other 3 cameras are off by 4 frames only after 15 minutes of the ceremony. Now, if you're shooting a 15-minute ceremony, great, not a bad thing. But 9 times out of 10, you're syncing this audio way earlier than the start of the ceremony. So 15 minutes, let's assume every 15 minutes, this drift grows by 4 or 5 frames. The issue is that you don't know when or if it's going to drift and by how much. So when you sync and every time you cut back to that camera angle, it may have grown an additional 2 or 3 frames. So every time you're cutting in a multicam sequence, your audio stays intact with camera 1, camera 2, 3, and 4. It's all over the place. And so this is the issue with not plugging in a timecode device into the camera and unplugging it. You can't do that.
The limitation with a system like that is that your second camera can drift over time, so you will need to resync to that master timecode from
How about this? Sorry about that. We had to fix the audio so y'all can hear it.
timecode at the start of the shoot. The limitation with a system like that is that your second camera can drift over time, so you will need to resync to that master timecode from the Wireless Pro receiver from time to time.
Okay, this part is ridiculous. You will need to sync to the master recorder, the RX, to the receiver, your other cameras to that receiver from time to time, he says. That is BS. If I cussed on my channel, I would do it right here, but I don't like cussing. That is BS. Timecode, trust me, Timecode, when you're using Timecode, going over the course of just a wedding ceremony, you can already be so many frames off, and each camera is going to record that timecode and drift in its own way. There's no telling if you're, like I did the test today and it was just 4 frames off. I could do it tomorrow and my mileage may vary. I could be 3 frames off, 6 frames off, who knows? Because it's not recording accurate timecode. The clocks in the camera are not accurate. He's telling you to rejam it from time to time. Weddings are a lot of work. You're moving fast. You've got all these missing, these things you got to do. You got to be here. You got to do that. You got to do this. You got to do that. The last thing you're going to want to do is try to remember, oh, did I plug the timecode into my B cam, my tripod? Did I plug it into my gimbal? Oh, man. And then you get back to your editing workflow and none of it's syncing correctly. This is why I really wanted to stress how to implement a good timecode workflow. I don't want Rode to sell a device to you that has you on the high hopes of, oh my God, I got timecode. And there's so many more steps you need to involve in order to fully utilize the system. You can't get by with just one device. Every camera that you have has to have its own dedicated timecode source. Recorders like the Deity BP-TRX, the PR2, the Tentacle Sync, the Zoom F6, those recorders accept timecode jamming and they all have accurate timecode clocks. So the Deities, they drift after 1 frame after 72 hours. Tentacle is 1 frame after 24 hours. The Zoom F6, I didn't look it up, but it's somewhere up there as well. In fact, the Zoom F6 can be used as a timecode generator and jam other devices, which is super unique about that in itself. So again, it's not just buying this product thinking that you're gonna go into a full timecode workflow. That's not the case. This product is designed for people who are looking to transmit to their camera, to one camera, and then they want to have the ability to sync that recording to the main camera, the 32-bit float recording to the main camera with a peace of mind. That is the only benefit to Rode's Rode code system because it's not timecode. Let's just be honest. Now, until I get my hands on it, I can't tell you if the clocks in these units are actually accurate. Once I buy one and I get my hands on it, I will come back with a video. And again, if I'm wrong, I will say that I was wrong. And in fact, I will redact everything that I said negative about the product. But if I'm right, I will continue to tell you not to buy this device if you want a timecode workflow. Simple as that. Another point I want to make out, just because a lot of you may be still on the fence and going, hey, Justin's crazy. I don't want to listen to him. I'm buying this anyway. 32-bit float, locking mic connection. I got timecode. Let's go. I want you to know that if your camera does not have a timecode port, like again, the Pocket 6K, Ursa Mini Pro, C70, FX3, FX6, things like that that don't actually accept being jammed, that means you have to record the sound of the timecode. You have to record the timecode as an audio file. The only software that does this natively is DaVinci Resolve. If you edit in Final Cut Pro, if you edit in Premiere Pro, and you record the sound as a timecode file, you cannot turn that audio file into timecode metadata. So trust me, if you're filming right now with an A7S III or A6400 or whatever, and your main 2 editing solution is going to be Premiere Pro, and you want to take advantage of timecode, forget about it, because you cannot update that software with inside of Premiere Pro. You cannot do it with inside the software. You will still have to go out and purchase either DaVinci Resolve or the Tentacle Studio, which is $150. You will still have to go out and buy that, upload all your footage to it, let Tentacle do its thing, and then export it all back out, which is an extra step. So I just want you to know this. Another thing about it is that you cannot film slow motion with the timecode. So let's say you've got 2 cameras set to 23.976, and then you got the other camera set to 120 frames per second, and then you got your recorder set to 23.976, and you go to jam these devices. I'm telling you right now, you're going to have a nightmare in post and have to go through and manually sync it or use software like Pluralize or hope that the waveforms line up, because it is not going to register any of that as a time code that can be jammed based on the time code. So again, your frame rates matter. Time code frame rates are 2397, 24 even, 25 POW, 2997, and 30 frames and 30 frame drop frame. You cannot film in slow motion and maximize and utilize a time code workflow. So if you're not filming in 24 frames per second, 30 frames per second, don't even buy this or any time code system if you're trying to implement time code. That's just kind of like, that's like where you should start. If you're like right now, oh, I film everything in 120, great, keep doing it and sync everything manually. This isn't going to help you. If you want to utilize the time code functions even inside the Rode Wireless Pro, you got to film within the constraints of what time code can be used for. So that's all I want to say on that. If you still are on the fence, watch the video that we just put out. It's uploaded on the channel. Check that one out. I show you fully good examples on how the drift works. And then I even explain it. I keep drilling it home that drift grows over time. He's saying that you will experience drift from time to time. And the reason he's telling you to re-jam over time is because that drift will grow. If you just jam it when you start the ceremony and you think you're good all the way up until the reception, you're not. And if you turn that camera off, you're in an even worse position, because it's most likely, most of the Pocket 6Ks, they hold the time code for a short amount of time and then it stops. And when you cut it back on, it starts back at like 18 hours or something crazy. It always resets. So again, know the facts with time code. They are misleading you. I would not recommend buying this for the last time to start time code. It is a great solution. It's a perfect upgrade to the Rode Wireless Go-To. It's a perfect upgrade to that because they implemented locking mic connections and they implemented 32-bit float in the backup recordings. That by itself, even without time code, is worth the investment. But this little time code, whatever dance that they're trying to tell you and teach you to do, don't do that. I promise you, that's going to make you think that time code is bad, and then you're not even going to invest in what is actually a powerful tool for post-production. All right, now moving on. That's it for time code. So if you came here to hear me rant about the Rode Wireless Pro, that's it. The next thing I want to talk about is a video I saw about another reaction about the Rode Wireless Pro. And this one, let's just play the clip and then we'll talk about it because there's a lot to say. So,
if I'm being really honest, I think timecode is just a little bit of overkill on a wedding day. There are some people who like to put recorders on the bride and the groom and the wedding party and let that just roll continuously all day so they can capture more candid stuff. If that's what you do, more power to you.
Okay. I'm trying not to be too emotional with this response. Yes, it's a direct jab at me. I'm past that. I don't even care about that. I don't even care about the fact that he says he thinks Rode or time code is overkill on a wedding day. Don't care about that. The problem and the thing that I care about the most is the same reason why I am pushing hard to change the wedding filmmaking industry. And it's the last sentence that he said. Some people mic the bride, the groom, and the entire wedding party to capture more candid moments. And if that's your thing, more power to you. This is posted on the How to Film Weddings channel, one of the leading teachers in the wedding space. They're basically promoting the fact that you should not care about candid moments at a wedding. Now, the passion behind this statement for me and the reason that I am okay calling this out, I lost my brother in March, my best man. I lost him. He died unexpectedly. No one knew it was coming. Got a phone call at 10 o'clock, my mom bawling, Lamont is dead. That was the statement. That was my best man at my wedding. At my wedding, we celebrated. We had the time of our life. It was great. There was so many conversations, him talking to me about my dad, who was also deceased at my wedding. He wasn't there. We were having conversations. My mom, who I am super close with, especially even more so now that I've lost my dad and my brother, no audio from her at my wedding. I'll tell you this right now. The day I found out that my brother died, the very first thing I did was went to find my reception speeches. I wished I had more of the conversations that we shared throughout that wedding day. I wish that the realness that we had, the real conversations when we were at that Airbnb joking, and him telling me like, man, bro, I can't believe you actually found a wife. Like, this is inspiring. Like, to hear that voice, especially from my brother who's always a jokester, who always plays jokes and just has a good time. But to hear him in a serious way, I would do anything for that little bitty piece of audio. How to Film Weddings, Blake, this guy, is telling you not to care about it. I am telling you that this is what you should focus on. You should focus on capturing the candid moments, capturing the dialogue that these couples share with the hand-selected people that they chose to celebrate with them. Their mom, their dad, their brothers, their kids if they have kids, their cousins, their aunts and uncles, their best friends from college, because tomorrow is not promised. Timecode allows you to utilize these tools and mic people in a way that you can now sync it and create stories and preserve moments and conversations that you would never be able to do without it. That's all I have to say about this, and I'll see y'all in the next one.